Well, good evening, everybody. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Mayor Rizzo, and it's really an honor for me to be here this evening with all of you, celebrating the success of many of the members of the Revere Police Department for their heroism and dedication to duty over this past year. This is a program that Chief Joe Caffarelli instituted back when he was appointed chief, and I think it's a great one. I'm a big believer in recognizing achievement and giving attaboys where they should be doled out. God knows that people, in all departments from time to time are criticized or, maybe corrective action taken if needed, but it's equally important to recognize the good work that's done in our respective departments. And we do that, quite honestly, as a city by way of a quarterly Employee of the Quarter award that we give out. This happens to be an annual award that the chief has implemented, but it's cumulative over the course of a year. So rather than give out quarterly awards the way the city does, the chief documents all of these acts, as I say, of bravery and duty above and beyond the call of duty. And with that, I'd like to first of all thank the chief for implementing this, and I most certainly want to thank the officers that go out there and do their job day in and day out, oftentimes under very difficult circumstances. You don't have to look any further than what we've had to experience over the last few weeks to understand what difficult conditions there are out there. But despite all of it, these officers go out and do the job with professionalism and dedication and making the city proud. So with that, I'd like to introduce our chief, Chief Joe Caffarelli.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. As the mayor said, we've been running our awards ceremony this is our third year running, and it's important to note we have 9 life-saving awards and 4 for valor. Now, we've had many, many more awards come through. We have an awards committee that they vet the recommendations. Recommendations are made by their officers in charge. So we have at least as many that didn't meet the standards set forth by the awards committee that I have to say it was questionable that I think they all should have been up here, but be that as it may, their peers found these awards that are being presented tonight to be of the highest caliber and of the highest standards that are set for the Revere Police Department. The 8 life-saving awards that we have here tonight are significant because I like to point out that here in Revere, all lives matter. It's very important that the people know that. To us, all lives matter. And so we're going to bring these gentlemen up here and present them with their awards. Thank you very much. We're going to read these warrants out and if you can hold your applause till we're all done in each group, and we'll proceed. Officer Romero and Trekovic, front and center, please. On May 1st, 2014, Officer George Romero and veteran Trekovic were dispatched to 364 Ocean Ave to a report of a possible drug overdose. Officers Romero and Trekovic were first emergency personnel on scene. These officers observed a female lying unconscious in the 13th floor hallway. These officers observed that the female was blue and not breathing. These officers immediately began to perform two-man CPR. After performing CPR for an extended amount of time, these officers were able to restore a pulse and breathing to the female. The quick actions of these officers saved the life of the female. Officers Romero and Trekovic action reflect great credit upon themselves, the Revere Police Department, and the City of Revere. Also, I'd like to point out next year we're going to have a dog saving award, I think. Okay, officers Steve Lowney, William Soto, and Joseph Turner. On October 29th, 2014, officers William Soto, Joseph Turner, and Stephen Lowney responded to the area of Kimball Avenue for a report of shots fired. Upon their arrival, these officers located a victim who was suffering from life-threatening injuries from a gunshot wound to the body. The victim was bleeding profusely and was in and out of consciousness. These officers, who were the first emergency personnel on scene, were able to tend to the victim's gunshot wounds, significantly slowing the bleeding until the ambulance arrived. Having minimal protective gear and without hesitation, these officers immediately rendered life-saving aid to the critically wounded victim. Officers Soto, Turner, and Lowney's action reflect great credit upon themselves, the Revere Police Department, and the City of Revere. Officers Dean and Fantasia, front and center, please. On June 8, 2014, officers Jackie Dean and Nicholas Fantasia were on routine patrol and observed a fight in the street. Officer Dean immediately observed an unresponsive female lying on the ground who was blue-gray in color and had no signs of life. These officers immediately began CPR on the female party and continued for several minutes until a weak pulse was found and medical aid arrived. Officers Dean and Fantasia's immediate response to the situation absolutely saved the life of the female. Officers Dean and Fantasia's actions reflect great credit upon themselves, the Revere Police Department, and the City of Revere. Officer Michael Travato. On August 25th, 2014, Officer Michael Travato was the first responding officer to 74 Rand Street for a 911 hang-up, which quickly turned into an armed home invasion. Upon his arrival, Officer Travato could hear screams from inside the home, as well as glass breaking and loud banging. Officer Travato attempted to enter the home through the back door, at which time he observed what appeared to be a bullet hole through the doorknob. Officer Travato kicked in the back door and entered the kitchen area, where he observed glass on the floor and could hear a struggle in another room. Upon exiting the kitchen, Officer Travato turned a corner and observed a man in the bathroom holding a silver handgun at his side. Officer Travato had to make a split-second decision, recognizing that the man holding the gun was known to him as the homeowner. Officer Travato then entered the bathroom where the two men were struggling, and with the assistance of another officer, took the male suspect into custody. Officer Travato showed great restraint by not using deadly force in a highly volatile situation. Officer Travato's actions, as well as the officers who assisted him, reflect great credit upon themselves, the Revere Police Department, and the City of Revere. Detective Impemba, Detective Karamanica, and Officer Patrizzi. There is one additional officer, Officer Keenan Rezick, who's on vacation this week, and he's unavailable. He'll get his award when he returns. On March 21st, 2014, Detective David Karamanica and Robert Impemba received information that a male party was inside a Broadway area store with a firearm. The male party was looking for known local gang members to retaliate against them after he was assaulted the previous evening. These officers located the male party in a local business. As these officers attempted to perform a pat frisk, the subject attempted to reach inside his waistband in an attempt to pull the firearm out. A violent struggle took place, and the male subject, now on the floor with officers on top of him, was able to pull the firearm from his waistband. It was at this time that Officer Keenan Rezick and Guido Patrizzi arrived on scene and assisted in the struggle for the firearm. Officer Rezick observed that the male subject had the gun in his right hand with his finger in the trigger guard. Officer Rezick pried the male party's finger from the trigger and removed the firearm from his hand. The male subject was then taken into custody. These officers became involved in a dangerous situation with an armed gang member and without hesitation put their lives in grave personal danger. These officers' actions reflect great credit upon themselves, the Revere Police Department, and the City of Revere. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Revere Police Department, I'd like to thank you very much.